Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT News. The big day in the VALORANT world yesterday. Week 3 of the main event is over. TenZ has explained exactly why he had to step out for the Sentinels and the chances of him potentially returning for next week's matches, because he certainly will need to, because there's a decent chance now, the way that Group B is transpiring, that Sentinels can still qualify for the playoffs. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really to the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Plenty to get into. Thought this is kind of funny just to start out the video. But yeah, NRG played, of course, later on today. They played up against Ghost. They were trying to get ready for the series. Didn't work out for them too well, though. And honestly, that makes Group A and Group B both incredibly hectic and difficult to call. Group B, I thought, was going to be rather more clear-cut. But the way yesterday transpired, anything is still pretty much possible in that group. And Sentinels, despite not playing, of course, with TenZ and Sick in their matchup they played just a couple of days ago against OpTic, which arguably they might well have been losing anyway, they still find themselves in a position where they could qualify if things go their way a little bit for the North American playoffs. We shall see here in a second. Just to speak quickly on 100 Thieves, thought this is quite remarkable. The last 14 games that 100 Thieves have played, through the qualifiers, of course, like against the Knights and all these other teams they had to play to qualify, and since then the 3 matches they played in the main event, they've won every single game they played here, except for the 3 matches they played TSM. They lost to TSM twice in the first qualifier, and since then they won every single game apart from a 2-0 to TSM. So for whatever reason, 100 Thieves are pretty much dominant against everyone they play, except TSM for some reason. So that's a rather interesting storyline to keep your eyes on as time progresses. Now, we'll talk about babybay, of course, and FaZe and Cloud9 here in a second. Thought this was rather interesting, though, because babybay was doing his best to bring Neon into play. That's been some talk from OpTic, certainly, right? The fact that Neon, they used her very successfully at the Masters, of course, with Victor in hand to, well, get them over the line of that tournament. It seemed like the Neon meta they were kind of introducing was a pretty big factor of their success. Now, Neon, since then, in their opinion, has arguably been nerfed, mainly in that when you use the sprinting thing, or like when you effectively use the movement, it depletes the mana, or whatever you want to call it, the charge, much more quickly than it used to. So like a bit, well, seemingly babybay had a way to get around that eventually in this series, right? And as Bosa says, prepping for chamber nerf, I like it, Duggar. So, well, he's maybe thinking that the chamber nerf is coming soon, and then like, who knows if Neon's going to be viable after that, right? Or more viable, I suppose, than she currently is. We've got to talk about the Sentinel stuff. Then, of course, we saw this yesterday. The TenZ was unwell. We weren't really sure like how he was unwell or why he was unwell or exactly how unwell he was. And Sick had a family emergency, so he's stepping away. Now, of course, that meant that they tried to bring in Zoms. Actually, he declined them, as we looked at yesterday. They brought in their coach Raucus, they brought in another guy called Danny, and honestly put up a fair bit of a fight against OpTic. It wasn't a close series, really. OpTic always had something in hand if they wanted to just blow them out, it felt like. But, of course, they lost 2-0, and this seemed to pretty much chalk up their chances of making it through to the playoffs. But as it turns out, the 2 teams they lost to first, EG and Luminosity, seem to actually be pretty damn good teams in this group. And the teams they have yet to play might be some of the weaker teams, which, of course, is crazy how quickly VALORANT turns around, but they still do have a chance here. Now, TenZ explained exactly why he stepped away, as he says, unfortunately, Kaide and I tested positive for COVID today. Been pretty rough for the both of us, but we will be back once we start to feel better. So, I think a lot of people are having it kind of bad lately. So, unfortunate for TenZ, of course, that he's tested positive here, but with any luck, he'll be better soon enough, because next weekend they need him back in business effectively. And I don't know, I guess TenZ had it worse than kind of Raucus had it, because Raucus, I believe, was also unwell, and he still played the match, right? So that's sometimes how it goes, where players, even though they're unwell, they still feel kind of well enough to play in these kind of online situations. And maybe TenZ, felt a little bit too bad. I thought, maybe it's best if I just step out of this one, because I won't be playing at my best. People are going to roast me on social media, right? It's like, of course, understandably, I suppose, from his perspective to a degree. So because this is what he's unwell with, and it isn't anything, I suppose, more severe, of course, hopefully he gets better. Some people certainly get it worse than other people, but, in theory, he should, in 7 days' time, feel much better and be able, probably, to be back in business and play next week's game. Certainly, well, we'll hope he will be, because they still have a chance, as I say, to make it through. Maybe he thought, look, we're probably going to lose to OpTic anyway, regardless of if I play or not, so let's just, come back, I suppose, for when they have matches that they maybe can more reasonably win. Now, before we talk about the Sentinels matches they will play and their chances, got to talk about real quick about N3C and the kind of what's going on in the EMEA side. The group over there are looking rather interesting. I mean, Group B seems kind of clear-cut, I think, with the top 3 teams in this group. Guild, Liquid, and N3 Champions. Yesterday, they 2-0'd their matchup against, I believe, against BBL, so that puts them in a good spot. And then FPX 2-0'd Focus to put out, well, Group A as follows, right? So this is shaping up very nicely, but, Group B seems kind of clear-cut, at least from my perspective. Now, this also, before we'll talk about NRG, of course, in a few minutes' time here, but I thought this is a very interesting kind of meta that they might be trying to introduce. The idea is, from NRG seemingly, is if the other team only uses Vandals, then in theory, it doesn't make too much difference if we have full armor or if we have just half armor, effectively. So, well, paying the extra, a lot of money, really, for the extra 50 armor, or the extra 25 armor to get up to 50 might not be worth it when you can just buy half armor and, well, of course, get the same benefit benefits, but to a lesser degree. But still, if there's a Vandal on the other team, you still die in 4 bullets to the body, you still die in 1 headshot. So if the other team is only using Vandals, this actually might be a very good strategy to save a lot of credits, and mean that you can buy rifles much more often. So I thought it was a very interesting idea, actually. Now, it did cost them sometimes because, like, look, there's chip damage that happens, right? If you get hit by rays or something, like, it's going to hurt you a lot more. So it can, like, come back to bite you. But I think on a lot of rounds, they might be trying this out because it's actually a really interesting idea to save a lot of credits here. And they were able to buy rifles an awful lot of rounds, even though, in fairness, it didn't really work out for them in this series. So intrigued to your perspective on that one. But I mean, yeah, we're going to talk about the FaZe Cloud9 series, right? Because zyppan says FaZe is the only team we've lost a scrim to in the last month. OpTic finally has some competition. So they believe, like Ethan believes right here, that FaZe is pretty much one of the teams to beat in the North American region. And NRG apparently been looking really good in scrims outside of FaZe, but they can't seemingly translate it right now into some of their match play. Now, I mean, this game one was ridiculous. Like, FaZe dominated Cloud9 here on the Fracture. But this final round, I have no idea how they managed to lose this one. Look how stupid this is, to be honest. We've got Leaf firing through this. He gets the kill on Superman. Then, you know, the flash comes through the smoke right here. Dicey tries to do something. He gets taken out by Leaf. Like, what a ridiculous gunfight that was. And then Flyer in a 1 versus 3. They all line up for him. 1, 2, 3. Just takes him down. No problem at all. Uses the breach to try and, well, help with the final kill. Takes down Mitch as well. 13-5. Like, Cloud9, they threw that one away, honestly. And, well, game 1 goes comfortably the way of FaZe Clan. And game 2, honestly, a pretty similar story right here. It's 10-6 at this point. Babybay's making some plays. This guy was doing some ridiculous stuff, honestly. On the knee on this map, just flying into situations that, you know, were working out rather well. I mean, look at him go right here. It's just absolutely incredible that he managed to get 2 kills out of that. He did that so often this game. He would just make a stupid play and somehow get 2 kills out of it, which apparently is an actual viable strategy at the moment for FaZe. And, well, eventually it's 11-8 at this point, and Dicey gets a couple of big kills. And that's the thing, really, like, Dicey and babybay, those were the 2 guys that are kind of required to turn up seemingly on this FaZe team since they brought in some of the Rise guys. They did this series, but in fairness, the rest of the team played their part as well. Now, of course, what this means is with this victory for FaZe over Cloud9, which is, well, a big victory, because otherwise, if FaZe didn't beat Cloud9, it would have been 0-3 for both FaZe and Sentinels, and basically both of those teams would be chalked. But now the way it is, it's actually possible for Sentinels to actually make it back through. As Ye says, Group B has now turned very spicy indeed, as indeed, of course, it has. We will look at it in a second exactly what the numbers look like in the group, but effectively it's now possible if FaZe win both their series, they can beat FaZe, they can beat Cloud9. If they do, and in fairness, those teams arguably like 2 of the weaker teams in their group right now. And then as long as Cloud9 loses to Luminosity, they'll then be 2-3 in that situation. There's of course some various ways this can work out, but effectively you could get a situation where Sentinels end up with a tiebreaker at 2-3, where they will win their head-to-head tiebreaker. So map win-loss doesn't matter if it's a 2-way tie and you win their head-to-head. So if they can beat both FaZe and Cloud9 and they get a 2-way tie with either of these teams, then they can actually make it through. But a 2-way tie with EG or LG or OpTic doesn't work out in their favor at all. These are the final series stats to look at right here. babybay, Dicey, those are the 2 guys that will do most of the damage right here, seemingly. Chamber, of course, that will coming into great effect. But honestly, since Curry has come into this team, they don't look quite the same as when they had zetted the Cloud9 guys. They were so good for so long, and now losing in this fashion to FaZe, 13-5, 13-8 is a dominant affair, honestly, even FaZe. So maybe they're not going to be quite so easy for Sentinels to beat as that they might have thought so a little bit ago. But I do love seeing some of these ideas for the compositions here. And as I said, Cloud9 now are at a real risk, honestly, of not making it through to the playoffs. They're probably still going to do it, but they are certainly not giving themselves the easiest possible chance to make that happen. Now, of course, it's NRG versus Ghost, the final series of the day. They played in about 10 minutes, but well, it wasn't too long after that, honestly, when the series was over. Ghost finally, like, look, we've seen people say for so long now from the North American scene, Ghost are the real deal. They're a really good team. They're gonna be dominating the region. They're gonna be right up there with OpTic and stuff like this. We've certainly heard some players say this. This is before they even qualified for, of course, well, the main event. They did eventually qualify. They did it the hard way, and now since they've got here, they've just gone from strength to strength. They pretty much demolished NRG in this first map, like a proto, like what a player he is. And it's not long after this first map is over that it's just a monster defensive side here from Ghost over on Breeze that pretty much just chalks the series up then and there, to be honest. Like, NG could do absolutely nothing here. They get 2-0'd, just straight up didn't shoot back, and NRG now 1-2. So Group A is also very spicy indeed. And as FNS says, don't know what's happening right now. Ghost is in Dreamland right now, first seed incoming. So it's possible that, even Ghost get first seed in that group, I suppose. Things can certainly work out in their favor. Final series stats here, 2-0. Ghost rapidly moving up the rankings, and Nismo played some of the best Valorant probably I've ever seen him play, or really any player play. 50-21 over 2 maps, plus 29, like a 90% cast effectively, 250 ADR, just so far above anyone else in the lobby, like 100 above anyone else in the lobby. That's just absolutely ridiculous over 2 maps. ACS of almost 400 over 2 series, or over 2 maps in the series. 13-6, 13-5. Like, this guy was absolutely absurd, like on the KO, on the Raze in game 1. So, Like, he played some ridiculous quality of Valorant. Maybe if he doesn't do that, NRG have more of a chance. But when he does, Ghosts are certainly a very scary team. That puts them now at 2-1 in, well, Group A. And we knew Group A would be incredibly hotly contested, but now all of a sudden, the Guard are actually kind of up here now at 1-2 after having a good series well this week. And TSM and NRG are still in the bottom two. 100 Thieves 2-1, Exit 2-1, Ghost 2-1. So, like, who knows how this is going to finish up? The next 2 weeks are going to be ridiculous in Group A. Group B is slightly more theoretically clear-cut, with OpTic 3-0 and Sentinels 0-3. But of course, OpTic is still going to make it here to winners. Their three wins will be enough for them to get through to the playoffs. But EG and Luminosity are the 2-1 teams. So this is really where it gets spicy for Sentinels and the possibility they could make it, right? Because let's say they beat both Cloud9 and FaZe. Both Cloud9 and FaZe will have 3 losses and will be a maximum of 2-3. And then if they do get a tiebreaker against one of these teams at 2-3, then they will win that tiebreaker if they win both these series. So I think they have to hope for some things to go their way. But it's certainly possible that if Sentinels win these last 2 series against teams that right now seem like two of the kind of weaker teams in their group, EG and LG have looked rather good so far and are certainly capable of beating FaZe and Cloud9. And if, let's say, FaZe and Cloud9 lose their other series as well, they'll both be 1-4. Theoretically, both these teams could go to 1-4, and therefore Sentinels with just 2 wins would make it anyway, right? So there's still all to play for Sentinels, and if TenZ is back, then I think they can certainly do some damage. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, tell us YouTube gods, this is a good video, I just like you should see it as well, and I've grown the competitive Valorant community. Thank you as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.